Good evening. I am Johnnie Brown, and I represent the Laity Associate Aggregates of the Sisters of San Giuseppe Benedetto Cottolengo at the Marian Center in Miami, Florida. I have accepted this privilege with both pride and humility. In sharing my personal reflections and experiences, I present to you three very important factors for consideration. The first factor: we are gathered here today and come from many countries. We have different cultures, customs, and languages. The second and more important factor: we are so much more alike than we are different. The reason that I say this is because we have all shared similar human experiences at various times in our life. Emotions such as love, loss, fear, joy, and uncertainty have been felt and impacted us time and time again. But without a doubt, the third factor is the one that binds us together in a way that transcends time, location, and language. We are united in our unyielding belief that the love of Christ impels us as brothers and sisters. Because of this, it is my great honor to share me with you. I find it difficult to say the word impel without actually feeling a sense of physical movement throughout my body. The dictionary meaning for the word impel is the urgency to do something. Those of us who are teachers would tell our students that the word impel is a verb or an action word. We would say that the only way to define impel would be with some type of action. I think that I would go so far as to say that impel is a super verb that requires specific and purposeful action. It is generated from the depths of our hearts and spirit. This super verb gets its origin from the love of Christ. When I began my journey as a lay aggregate in 2019, Sister Philomena gave me the book, The Ark of Charity by Giovanni Martedì to read. This helped me to better understand and embrace St. Benedetto Cottolengo's charism. I found this book to be a natural connection to my thoughts and to my words today, and as such, I will make reference to it. Spiritual life. St. Benedetto Cottolengo said, prayer is the foundation and glue of community life. Prayer must be humble, spontaneous, and simple. Prayer makes you dear to God. Therefore, pray. Always pray. Make yourselves dear to Him. We were all taught to pray at a very young age. As I was not born in the Catholic faith, prayer for me was something you did at a special time, usually at night, in a special way, eyes tightly closed and hands clasped together, and with special words, the Our Father. My life's journey has led me to a greater understanding of prayer. For me, prayer is more special than I could have ever imagined. It allows me to have a deeper relationship and authentic conversation with God. When I feel a sense of despair, I pray. when my heart is filled with unimaginable joy and gratitude, I pray. When I have nothing to say, I pray. I am so glad that God never tires of hearing my prayers. Fraternity and everyday life. The saying that you don't get to choose your family is true for all of us. Each family member comes with his or her own gifts and talents, as well as hurts and pain. I have come to realize and accept the reality that God chose my family and expects me to be the best wife, mother, daughter, sister, and aunt that I can be. Because of this, I choose to love my family and embrace all that makes us who we are, even though this is not always as easy as we all know. Divine providence. God always provides what we need. For more than 25 years, I attended the same church as the Sisters of St. Benedetto Cottolengo. I watched and admired the way in which they interacted with each other, but more so, the children in the parish. Everything that they did seemed to be done with joy and purpose. I could not have imagined that more than 40 years later, I would be volunteering at the Marian Center and building a personal relationship with the sisters. From the very beginning, we developed an impenetrable bond of friendship, caring, support, and love. I recognize that there are similarities that are common in every family. Just like everyone else, the sisters were not greeted with sunshine and joy every day, but they relentlessly rejected the obstacles of the human condition and instead actively pursued their unyielding commitment to St. Benedetto Cottolengo's ingredients of spirituality: humility, serenity, simplicity, and joy. God knew that there was much for me to learn, and so He also chose this family for me. The Cottolengo family was just the one that I needed. Thanks be to God. Service and charity. The love of God impels me to serve the children at the Marian Center with great joy and personal fulfillment. The Ark of Charity states, charity is not a generic form of philanthropy, but the language of God. The eye of faith recognizes words and actions as the fruit of the direct love of Christ and for Christ. This book also talks about St. Joseph Cottolengo's deep relationship, love, great respect for the handicapped, the blind, the ugliest, the most deformed. He considered them the jewels of the little house. It is a true blessing for me to serve and be a part of the lives of the jewels at the Marian Center School. Jewels are precious and are to be maintained with great care. Jewels are to be treasured. Jewels are to be displayed and allowed to reflect their natural beauty. The pure joy and love that I receive from the children at the Marian Center are indescribable. This is where I belong, and this is where I will always be. the pandemic experienced lessons of love, patience, and mercy for me. It is my belief that all that happens in life is a test of endurance or a lesson to be learned from God. For me, the pandemic experience was and is God's way of giving us the opportunity to decide who we are and whose we are. In February 2020, we were quickly stripped of our false sense of power and control without warning. We were placed in an environment of fear and uncertainty. We were forced to experience an immediate detachment from the material things that we had come to value even more than life. We were given the chance to look at ourselves and our hearts at the point of full exposure. There were indescribable losses for many people. God blessed me and my family with good health, and I will be forever grateful. Because of this, I know that I am called to give up my time, talents, and treasures in any and every way that I can. I pray to Jesus each day to direct my path to be better and do better, in order to help ease some of the pain and suffering that have been endured by so many individuals. It is my goal to pass this test. Testimony of God, my lessons of faith, hope, charity, and fortitude. In 1963, Sister Lucia Sessotti and 10 other sisters left Italy, their families, and their mother house to come to Miami, Florida, in the United States of America. Their vision was to establish a school for persons with developmental disabilities. The sisters brought only a few belongings and were challenged by language differences. The property that was chosen was filled with discarded appliances, broken furniture, and wild animals. This was not enough to dissuade the sisters from accomplishing their mission. Sister Lucia was known for her God-given gift of identifying and soliciting the talents of varied individuals, as well as securing the support of benefactors in order to expand needed programs, services, and facilities. This year, the Marian Center School and Services will celebrate 58 years of service. People coming to visit the Marian Center express an inexplicable feeling of being on sacred ground and are in total disbelief when told about its history. The Marian Center story is one that almost seems unreal, but it is the purest form of the testimony of God and divine providence. A very meaningful part of the aggregate's experience is participating in our retreats. This has given me the opportunity to meet, interact, and develop a personal relationship with some very wonderful people with tremendous gifts. Each time that we meet and share our real life experiences, I sense that God has chosen yet another family for me, a family of acceptance with the shared desire to follow the way of the cross. The theme for this year's retreats are centered on the necessity of fortitude in our lives. During our last retreat, we were presented with the catechism reference of fortitude. In part, it said, "Fortitude is the moral virtue that ensures firmness in difficulties and constancy in the pursuit of the good." Being fully aware of my human sinfulness, I will unceasingly ask God for the gift of fortitude. During one of the retreats, I shared a personal story about God's gift of fortitude, and I would like to share it with you. As a school principal, our professional worth was measured by how well our students performed on statewide tests. Each year, the school would receive a grade of A through F based on the students' test scores. An A meant excellent, and an F meant failure. As you can imagine, I was totally devastated when the major newspapers in the area posted the school grades for all to see, and next to my school's name was the letter F for fail. I felt like the main character in the historical fiction book, The Scarlet Letter. But instead of wearing the letter A for adultery, I was wearing the letter F for failure for all to see. After getting over the initial shock of what I felt was my personal failure, I sat quietly alone in my room and prayed to God to direct my path. When God spoke to me, He directed me to refocus my thoughts, and suddenly the F became the symbols for faith, family, fortitude. I presented this theme to my staff, my students, and my parents. We worked very hard during the next year, but maintained a primary focus on faith, family, and fortitude. When the next year's grades were posted in the newspaper, the letter B was next to my school's name. I was very happy, but not overly surprised by the school's improvement, because I knew that this was my test of endurance and my lesson to be learned from God. Subsequently, I was interviewed by numerous media outlets and always asked what we attributed to making such great academic improvements. I very quickly realized that God had given me yet another opportunity to share the good and real news about faith, family, and fortitude. I refer to a quote in the Ark of Charity. If a project is inspired by God, God will not abandon it. Divine providence, it is real. As I continue my journey as a lay aggregate and encounter so many real-life experiences along the way, I have gained a greater understanding of the vast meaning of divine providence. I now know that it is so much more than God providing tangible things needed to fix worldly problems. Divine providence gives me peace in a time of inner turmoil. Divine providence encourages me to trust in a time of fear. Divine providence offers me hope in a time of uncertainty. Divine providence radiates love when I kneel at the foot of the cross. Divine Providence allowed me to fulfill my dream of visiting the little house of Divine Providence in Turin, Italy, the year before the pandemic. This significant part of my journey will be treasured forever and serves to strengthen my desire to make the charism of Saint Benedict Cottolengo an integral part of my life. Deo gratias. Finally, I would like to share these words from the Ark of Charity. Holiness is not for the few elected ones, but a collective obligation, a legitimate universal experience, even for the laity living amidst the weariness of the world. It is not necessary to live in a convent to aspire to holiness. It is enough to live the faith with the specific dimensions of your personal and family life and in the workplace. So today, I share in our collective obligation, brothers and sisters, because the love of Christ impels us. Thanks be to God.